I used to be the avoidant. I just did the moving out in my head, planning my escape. All this while never ever confronting her. There's a difference between typical avoidant behavior, the needing the space, the withdrawing during conflict, versus the deeper signs that they've emotionally checked out and are preparing to leave for good. One means I'm scared and need to isolate. The other means that I'm done and I'm quietly planning my exit. Now in this video, I'm going to help you tell the difference so you don't waste months or even years fighting for someone who's already made peace with leaving. Typical avoidant behaviors includes what you would expect: the pulling away when emotions get intense. It's also the asking for lots and lots of space. The face sort of glazes over and they lose all kind of emotional expression. And these behaviors are just their survival patterns that they learned very early in life. They are not necessarily the signs that the relationship is over, but when they are truly done, they stop showing curiosity about your life. They don't care about what your plans are, and especially they don't care who you're with. They stop all attempts to repair even when you pull back. And here are some sneaky ones that unfortunately you're not going to know, but inside their mind, they start to literally envision and even begin planning a future without you, all behind your back. For example, I had a client whose husband slowly went from cooking dinner together 3 nights a week to never eating with her at all. He'd always say that I'm too busy or I'm not hungry, because this was his excuse. And the truth was he was avoiding the intimacy that those shared moments created. And I know this very well because I used to do this. I used to be the avoidant. In one of my relationships, I was too scared and terrified of the fear, the unsafety, the shaming and blaming, and all the emotional mess of actually telling my girlfriend at the time the truth that I did not want to be in this relationship and I want to move out. So instead, I avoided all of that. I just did the moving out in my head and also online by looking up apartments. I would even talk to my friends about when I was going to move out, where I'm going to live, and basically planning my escape. All this while never ever confronting her. Eventually, my girlfriend found out that I was doing all this behind her back. She felt even more betrayed, even more hurt, and it was way worse than if I had just had the confidence to just address and tell her that this is the end. Avoidant people, they are not heartless. They're just very scared of emotions and confrontation and conflict. They grew up with emotionally absent or unpredictable parents. Their childhood environment where needs and emotions were brought up was met with shame and rejection. And so they got the message through their childhood that if I stay independent and I don't need anyone, maybe I won't be hurt. For example, I was coaching a client who grew up with a father who mocked him for crying. And as an adult, he avoided emotional closeness, not because he didn't love his partner, but because her vulnerability reminded him of the shame that he felt between him and his father growing up. Now, the common advice that you'll hear out there is that you just need to understand each other's love languages. You just have to communicate better, talk it out. But the problem with dealing with avoidant people is that this backfires. The more you try to communicate with them, no matter how pretty and buttered up you make it, it feels like pressure. It feels like you're setting them up to be blamed and shamed. There's a client that I was working with where her partner would send long, vulnerable texts daily to try to bridge the gap, to try to get that connection. His nervous system associated her needs and her extra words and communication with emotional overwhelm, not safety. Sometimes the key is creating those micro moments of safety that don't involve words to prove that it's okay to have your autonomy. It's okay to have space. But regardless of how to deal with an avoidant person, if you find yourself attracting avoidance consistently, it's not a matter of bad luck or bad judgment in choosing partners. It's literally your nervous system and subconscious blueprint. Because you got the blueprint growing up that love in your childhood was distant and conditional. And because these crumbs of attention and connection, sometimes here, sometimes they're gone, and you could never predict it, this put you on edge to become hyper attuned and hyper vigilant to the other person's needs, as well as any little micro shift in behavior. And because this was your blueprint growing up as a child, you will find yourself sucked in to these relationships again and again. There was a woman that I was working with that I got her to finally admit that a calm, stable relationship was boring to her because her nervous system blueprint had trained her and conditioned her from a subconscious level and a nervous system level that anxiety and love go together. So whenever she experienced calmness or stability, that felt utterly unnatural, and her body would activate into a fight or flight response to cause drama or leave the person that was more secure and chase someone insecure. Now, these relationships, they don't fail because they have these dynamics. They fail because neither partner takes full accountability for their part in the relationship. So what do? They point fingers instead of looking inward. They wait for the other person to change. They avoid doing their own inner work, and they use their childhood past as an excuse instead of a motivation to grow and change. So if you're in a relationship like this, you both have to own your part without deflecting. And there has to be a willingness to understand the other partner's fears and limitations, not just trying to get your partner to understand your own. And most importantly, accept that perfection isn't possible because you're both unlearning a lifetime of really old behavior patterns and emotions that you have not dealt with inside. Now, if you're in a relationship where you're the only one trying, they blame you for their emotional withdrawal, and you have to change core parts of yourself just to avoid triggering them, that is a relationship that's going to be doomed. I knew someone, a client, that would stay with a partner who refused to engage with any kind of coaching, counseling, or therapy, and definitely not this work that we were doing. Over time, she gave up hobbies, friendships, and even career opportunities just to keep him comfortable. And by the time she left, she said, "I don't even know who I am anymore." And what she didn't realize is that the abandonment wasn't even coming from him. The abandonment was the abandonment that she was doing to herself. Now, what does it even mean to change this pattern? What's the actual work? Well, the cycle ends when you stop abandoning yourself. You start by retraining your nervous system to feel safe even when you are triggered, to learn to feel through emotions instead of react. You reparent the subconscious through the inner child. Also allowing yourself to grieve instead of bypass the sadness, and to allow that feeling to be felt and finish a cycle through your body. The work is also disconnecting your sense of worth to being chosen, to them choosing you, and to learn to hold yourself through your own emotions instead of making someone the source of your soothing. So with that said, if your avoidant partner is showing the signs of actually leaving, they may already be gone. The real question, are you trying to save them, or are you avoiding what their absence might mean about you? That you are unlovable. You don't have to audition for love. You can return to the part of yourself that never felt safe in love and give that part of you the safety it's always been waiting for. And that's when the pattern ends and something better can begin.